yeah, let's start with our guest, Daniel Joseph.
Hi.
How
Hi.
are you?
Great.
Thanks for joining us again. Um, what happened a while ago?
You froze.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. Right. So Daniel, how was your week been?
Well, my week has been up and down. Typical life. Um, doing some practice in the arena of portraits. So art-wise, yeah, I'm doing some practice.
Mhm.
It hasn't been bad. It hasn't
Okay.
been bad. Yeah.
All right. Christina.
I think same up and down of life. Yeah, it's been a week, but it's been a productive week. Our week has been good.
All right. It's been a productive week. Mr. Watson.
Yeah, it was some of the same, but Friday the 13th came and
Oh, forgot.
two two boys had a fight in my class.
Mm.
I saw what happened immediately, but I don't know what happened prior to.
Okay.
I was sitting there and I was trying to discipline them. So I want them to sit, don't talk, don't move. Things were said because this boy was annoying, was rubbing his rubber soles on the floor and making annoying noise. And everybody, even the bad ones, were telling him to stop. He wouldn't stop.
Mm.
So somebody said something. He said something, and then he got from all the way across the room over to the other side and started punching.
Mm-mm.
So I got up, I had to grab him, took him outside, and called the powers that be. So,
Like the attitude, the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because I wanted to change him too,
Yeah.
'cause I was working on that, and that's one of the things too. The previous week, this week that just passed, there were some breakthrough in turn. Have a second grade, God, but this week I got through to them somewhat, and I met them maybe 3 times. Usually I'd meet them once per week. No, that's not true. But I met them about 3 times, and it was a different experience. Because
Mm.
what I detected was some people were now trying to learn because I was trying to appeal to them. I have
Mm-hmm.
not gotten so much through to the third graders only because I see them less. But I think if I'm there longer, I might make a difference in terms of some behavior modification. That kind of thing. And it was kind of good, except for yesterday kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. But life goes
Okay.
on.
Yeah.
All right. As for me, it's been an okay week. It's been an okay week. Get some work done. I find myself working. Maybe we need to talk more about some of the stuff that we do and even show some of that as well. Because I have some very
That-
I have some things that I consider exotic materials where, like for example,
Yeah.
well, I get that's what I
Oh,
call it.
okay.
Like this bag of coins. Wait, am I holding this right? It's a bag of coins with coins from all over the world in there. Some of them the designs are so complex. But I call them colonial coins anyway, because the purpose they will serve in my work. Just a little hint there. But yeah, it's been a good week. I wanted to
Good.
continue where we left off last week. Last week we spoke about your experience coming here to Jamaica, being a student at the Edna College. Um, Remind me, did you attend right up to final year? I don't remember.
If what? Sorry.
You attended right up to final year, right?
Yeah, man.
For s-
Graduated and everything.
for some reason, when I was in fourth year, I don't think I saw you. I don't
That's
remember
Cause
because
seeing you.
that's
education.
education.
Oh yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Okay,
Yeah.
And
okay.
Daniel
Yeah.
was like, I just want my courses. Just
Yeah,
painting
that's it.
questions.
That's it. Education students are out on teaching practice and so. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So we spoke about your experience at Edna. So this week I would like to know, what is the art scene in Grenada like?
Ooh, I love the question. Well, let's say before we had COVID, um, the art scene in Grenada is on a, I would say personally, it's on a, it's slow. Um, you have things happening, but it's not so much a togetherness. Um, we have what we call an art council called the Grenada Art Council, which has been in existence for quite a bit of years. I don't want to say the amount because I don't want to get the number wrong. But a lot of years now. And I kind of had to do some self-reflecting and realize there's certain things that just might just have to consider what I say. But
Right, right.
that that that's the kind of the highlight of the art scene here, that council. Um, Before that, as I said, before COVID, they used to have little shows here and there. And if you're an artist and you're aware of the show, then you can participate. I mean, a couple of years past, I used to take part in some of the art shows before, I move on to study.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the art scene is not very active as it is in Jamaica. Um, from my experience picking up a Jamaican newspaper, and going through the entertainment section or going to whatever aspect that you would see, hey, there's an art show happening on that particular day in Olympia Gallery and wherever gallery. We don't have that, right? You kind of have to be in the what we call the art world in Grenada to know what's happening, right? There are persons who, besides the art council, there are persons who are just doing their own thing, not necessarily hosting their own shows. Like, for example, there's some young persons trying to start things off. I mean, the new thing on the block now is like doing an Instagram or Facebook or whatever the case is to kind of put yourself out there. And then also there are persons who are what I would call veterans, in the sense that, they would have been along as long they would have been around as long as the art council was. But
Mm-hmm.
they are not necessarily in the council, they're just doing their own thing, trying to make ends meet, as we would say. So the art scene in Grenada is not as live as it is in Jamaica. And that's the one thing I appreciate about the Jamaicans and the art scene that they have out there. We don't have a national gallery dedicated to the arts or visual arts. We have a national museum. You might go in there and you might find maybe one or two paintings or drawings, but that's just based on as it relates to in the times when you had persons were commissioned to come to the Caribbean to work on assignments and stuff like that. You'd have had those things in the museum. But
Oh.
we don't have an art gallery. We don't have that.
Who runs the council? Are any artists involved in running the council?
Yes, you have artists running the council, but then again, that's based on some foreigners who came to Grenada and been living in the country for quite a while, and then they got citizenship, and therefore they started to create a little council among themselves and invite more locals to participate to kind of make it well, I would say, seem authentic.
Palatable.
Yeah, to the Grenadian population.
So
You
it's
know,
the expatriate people.
yes, kind of like that. Yeah.
um,
But you have art
Besides,
schools.
yes, we have art in the schools.
So what happens to the people who have that kind of interest?
Well, the schools and art, that's another heavy level discussion. I mean, both are heavy level questions, because the reason why I keep saying that is because I have my own opinions and about the council that I don't feel that I should be necessarily sharing at this particular point, because I want to be fair on all sides, but I do have my own personal heavy um opinion concerning that.
Okay.
But in
Alright.
terms of the schools, let's just say it's simple as it is. Art is not taken seriously in the school. Let's take, for example, on a primary school level, you just might have, you just might have a teacher who they might just assign. So, okay, you have a primary school teacher. That primary school teacher teaches math, English, social studies, whatever the case is, the long list of subjects. And then the idea of art is like a craft thing. So in some schools, they might have a little structure, that teacher would have had a little experience in college, being introduced to art, but it's not like on an educational level, right? And when I say educational, like showing how to teach it. So they come in, and what they have been taught, whether it comes to learning painting techniques or other cases, they might show that to the students, And then you have cases whereby, art is on the timetable, is once a week, and sometimes it's the last thing of the school day. And students are just maybe given a sheet of paper, and they're probably told, draw something, or the teacher might draw something on the board, and then the children follow after to draw it. So in some schools are not very structured as it relates to having an art program, because it's how the subject is seen in the school. It's seen as something that is not important, something you might just do to waste time or pass time, right? And that's it. And when you come to secondary school, don't get me wrong, there are some teachers in the primary who are trying to, because who are trying to help students who have what we call the skill. I mean, I put my fingers like this because I don't necessarily believe in this thing of the given skill or the given talent, because I do believe that people can actually learn to become artists. But yes, and then you have the secondary schools where you have a teacher that is specifically designated for teaching the subject area. But however, in some schools, that teacher might be teaching several other subjects, right? And they have a whole load to take on. And on top of that, but can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So in the secondary school, it's how it's being perceived in some cases. It's not a very viable subject. Even if it's on the CXC syllabus, still there is this casual kind of approach to the subject area. On the other hand, there are some teachers, they're very serious about what they do, and they're trying to push for the arts. And also trying to get the students to see that it has some level of importance other than the idea of to create pretty art, that you can actually use the art for, well, I guess as much as just me speaking, but speaking up about something or against something, like it's a language that you can use to communicate, other than just express feelings, but you can actually communicate a message, right? Like, for example, speaking of against social ills, So there is different variations, but it is not necessarily on the most positive side sometimes, because you have to battle with the parent. And then there are parents who don't believe that art makes sense and it's a hobby and you're wasting your time, But because CXC has made it a subject on the syllabus, I do think that, it kind of helps the subject in some cases. Yeah.
Khristina.
Yeah, it's interesting that some of the things they talk about, it's so relatable to Jamaica as well. And I'm so wondering if it is an ale of the Caribbean. So what's his like? Nope.
No, I'm talking worldwide. It's not just
Worldwide. But it's the council. I see they have a biennial, but the biennial is more so about architecture. Um, I don't even know if it's a biennial just for the council or if it's a biennial with other, because it's a La Biennial de Venezia, and it's 2021. So maybe you can tell us how that is perceived on the island, or what it is about if you know much about it. And if they are a council, how much of a role they play in a biennial, because I think one of the things here is that our biennial is run by the National Gallery, the government, and it's interesting that a council has taken on that responsibility to sort of man and I don't know if it's fun, but support a biennial, and does that shift the perception of art in the country? I know it's online, but maybe you can talk a little bit more. If you know, if you're not, we can just talk about what is online.
The council and the government, as I said, I'm not necessarily in the council to tell you firsthand how things operate from that stand. But in terms of being an artist, who have participated in shows from the council, there is not that sort of, maybe I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. But from my observation, there doesn't seem to be a relationship.
Okay.
There.
Okay. Yeah, because it was
Yeah, go ahead.
interesting. It's interesting, Khristina pointed out that for this, group of people to come together and take on that responsibility of having a biennial. Very interesting. So all right. So I would guess that the museum, the National Museum, that's run by the government, of course. But what's that like? Is it just a place for storing historical objects in national treasures, or is it a space that is accessible to artists, contemporary artists, and so on?
dynamic it is.
Come again, Mr. Alton?
Well, it's more
How dynamic it is.
Okay.
as it relates to the gallery that we have. Yes, it deals with historical artifacts. It hosts those things. So we go all the way to the Caribs and Arawaks, all the way to a little bit of the Africans and so that lived on the island, and stuff that pertain to the Grenadian Revolution and so. I do think in some sense the gallery is trying to change its own dynamics, to kind of get more, I guess, locals in the space rather than just focusing on the idea of tourists. But it's a slow, very slow development. As I said before COVID, they were trying to do some hosting of artworks and so they did have some artist works on display, and that was as it relating to art. But I do think if COVID probably didn't hit the way that it hit, maybe we would have probably seen some more development towards that. But in general, the museum is not designated to art. Okay,
Yeah.
it's just museum for artifacts, historical artifacts. Yes.
Okay. Okay. There are a lot of parallels with what's happening in Grenada and what's happening here. I think a lot of people here kind of view the National Gallery as a kind of bit clandestine. There's not a lot of transparency with a lot of things. The communication is poor, and I share a similar sentiment in terms of how I think not just the government but the people view art in Jamaica. You know, I don't think they take it very seriously, and it's just kind of it's a weird feeling hearing that being echoed across the aisle from our neighbor Grenada. So that's interesting.
Well, the thing for me, especially from what I've observed, is that you guys are still like there's still some betterment from your perspective than from my observation here. You have a museum.
Nah, technically it's the National Gallery. Technically.
Right.
No, it's they call it's the
National Art Gallery.
Yeah, but they consider it a museum. They consider the other one a museum, and they consider the gallery, National Gallery, a museum too.
Do you guys, quick question, you guys, how you guys think the museum and the gallery can be one thing, or you think it has to be a separate entity? Just a quick question. Because they serve different purposes, you know. I know a lot of people like to think that they're the same thing, but
one of them is time, is sort of a time reference in terms of a museum.
It's a cultural
space
for housing cultural artifacts and
the gallery is a space that showcase at any given moment. There's a showcase happening where you can go and
right, and the space should be available. Which that's one criticism we can lay on that.
Nobody got it though.
I agree with everything that Tuan said, but in the same breath, I'm going to disagree with a lot of what he said as well. Because whether we like it or not, the National Gallery, even the term that we can call the National Gallery in Jamaica is like miles ahead of tons of even other developed countries as well. And I like the fact that we have it. What we need to do is make it work for us.
Right.
You know, it is there, and we have the Biennale, we used to have the national exhibition, we have the young talent, there's all of these activities that showcase the work of, you know, so there's some attempt. Maybe there's some fine-tuning of the process, and you talk about transparency. Maybe there's not a lot of transparency in terms of what happened. And also, we want some people who are not just
business people. Not just business.
No, I'm talking about people
government designated. Sorry.
No, I'm talking about people who really have the art and exposing the art of the country.
That's what I mean. It feels like a lot of business people.
But
from the gallery sometimes.
The one gallery will not do all of that. So I am calling, we need satellite spaces. We need spaces all over if we want to reach the whole country and therefore outside of the country. So
I don't even think it should even focus on the country. I think there can be some broader
that is what I'm saying. So if we have these satellite galleries, that's stepping stone to going through the rest of the Caribbean, and there has been some attempt, people from the National Gallery reaching out to other nations in the Caribbean, and there are some collaborations and stuff like that. These are things that we need to encourage, but I don't think on a wholesale basis that the National Gallery is ignoring everything.
To go back to your question about museum and gallery, why I think that the gallery has a museum attached to it as well is because upstairs has permanent exhibitions that are, as Mr. Watson was saying, has time attached to it. So we have the Belisarius that, am I saying it right, Mr. Watson?
Yeah.
That has artifacts, historical referenced work within that space that does not move, as well as Edna space, the top space. There's some that are on rotation, but for the most part it stays. Capo's galleries is also one that is a part of the permanent catalog and exhibition, whilst downstairs is more of on rotation. Not to mention that there's a part of the gallery that is under construction for a long time that should also be on either rotation or a permanent gallery, a permanent exhibition. So that's where the museum aspect comes in for the time factor of artworks that throughout what they consider like the canons and historical information. Like the timeline is there. Then the bottom part, I think, has to do with a lot of contemporaries, where I think the gallery aspect comes in. And so that's where the push and pull, I think, is where people think it's a national museum, but it's also operating as a national gallery. But the purpose of it is really a museum. It's really a museum.
Yeah, I think they need to separate it.
But is that
That's
somewhere where we got to? I mean, if we look at how it started, it was to showcase what was happening. It's just that we have people on board then who was of the mindset that these are things that we should also include, and therefore it took on the museum aspect of it. But also with the realization that we have to showcase what is contemporary, what is happening now, and therefore there's that happening. Hence, and we know the building, because I know there was move afoot to buy that building. I don't know if that happened, but the building don't even belong to the National Gallery. So they need a space. I remember there was not so long ago, there was an effort to build a new gallery, and there was where it would be placed. There was the National Hero Circle and all kind of stuff. And as a matter of fact, money from the San Jose Accord was allotted to build a National Gallery.
From the what? From the what?
San Jose Accord, that would have been money from leftover from oil transaction or whatever. But there was money aside for a National Gallery, and that never happened. Where is the money?
I have some recollection of this. Something.
Money?
Yeah. That's another discussion in
That's
itself.
another discussion.
That's another discussion.
We've trailed off, Daniel. The fact is, though, for real, that we do have an existing space that is
but we agree that it should be bigger, though, or at least.
You talk about bigger, and Daniela say, listen, uno have a space.
Exactly.
Ungrateful bastards.
Not settling. We understand, Daniel. You want bigger space. We want a bigger space.
And Daniela say, uno have a space.
Yeah, right. But the thing, what I would say to that, Khristina, what I would say to that is, we can't settle at no time. We have to keep going forward. We can't settle. So here we have this space. We want a better one.
Maybe we can go and sing a song until she come on back now.
You're back now.
I am?
Yes, we've seen you now.
The thing is, I can hear you guys so well. I forgot to mention we had a gallery space for art. I forgot that. Because the reason why I forgot is because it closed down. And and the owner moved from his space. So that really slipped my mind. But we had a gallery designated for art and artists. artist named Yellow Pui. And
Yellow what?
the Yellow Pui, you know, the
Yellow
Oh,
Pui.
yeah, poetry.
right. So that really slipped me.
Okay.
But he told me about an artist when I was coming to Jamaica to look out for. I think it's Harak the sculptor.
Harak.
You
Yes.
mean
He has
Sitara.
Harak?
Sitara.
yes,
Idaya.
right. Right. I went to the funeral. Um, so that is who I know about. I attended school there.
Okay.
I have a couple of his pieces in UE, not UINA, the other school, the school,
UTech.
UTech, right? He has a piece of work featured in there, if not one piece, several pieces.
They have a sculpture garden. Maybe it's in the sculpture garden.
Yes, yes,
From
it is in
Grenada,
the
you mean
sculpture.
it's not Ricky, it's not Ricky you're talking.
Huh?
It's not Ricky talking, Ricky George.
No. Yes. I was told to look out for him, and my intentions was to make some kind of connection at the time. Funny enough, when I was thinking about trying to find ways to track him down, that's when I heard about his funeral.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. I did attend, but after that I never really did any follow-ups per se.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
quick question, Daniel. Are there
Mm.
any are there any what you'd consider all right, so yeah, emerging mid-career and end of career artists.
Yeah.
Are there any end of career artists in Grenada like who have
Or
had like an
canons. Canons.
yeah, with an extensive history of just practicing on the mech art? Is there anyone
Um,
like that?
yes, I mean there's several persons. For some persons they operate independently of the council. So they're
Mhm.
doing their own things as a means to survive. There
Okay.
there are quite
That
special
are
persons.
Grenadians.
Say again, sorry.
Are they expatriates or are they Grenadians?
Grenadians.
Okay. Are any of them past students of Edna Manley College?
For those that I know about, no. They're more
Okay.
self-taught. They're self-taught. For
Oh.
example, yeah, there's one named Freddie Paul. He's quite
Mhm.
he's quite he's quite popular in certain arenas. He's definitely self-taught. His works are more along the line of trying to represent some cultural aspects of the country. He does a lot of seascape paintings, those kind of things, because he has to reach different markets in order to be able to make a living from it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, then there's a Benjamin. I can't remember, Roland Benjamin. He's also self-taught, you
Mhm.
know. And when you look at the quality of these guys' works, I mean, it's really good, it's
Mhm.
it's really good. And they have decided that they were going to pursue this. I mean, yes, they might have little jobs on the side, but I know for sure Freddie Paul is full-time into what he does. He has a little gallery, a very small gallery space up in the city, or the what we call St. George's,
Mhm.
right? Um, so it's not, once you know where he's located, it's not hard to find him. He used to take part with the art council. He used to have his works featured in the art council and so. And then we
Okay.
have another artist you probably would have heard. You probably would have heard about her through the biennial that Khristina was talking about, named Susan Maines, or you probably would bounce her up
Mhm.
um, in some online article. She has represented Grenada in certain outside exhibitions, and then her son, Asha Maines, he is also into the art because he kind of follow along the path of Susan Maines, who is his mother. So
Mhm.
you can also find information about him online, Asha Maines. They have a gallery space, which is located somewhere in the south of the island. The south of the island is more like the most popular
It must be
spot
me.
business
It's
wise. A lot.
Continue, Daniel.
Right. So there's a lot of you find a lot of business places along that part of the island. So he is a full-time artist, but then he studied abroad. I can't remember exactly which school, but he studied. He does his works. He's explored a lot of different topics and stuff like that. I'm not sure. I'm wondering if the installation that you've been talking about is not his work. Not installation. What did you say?
The
Architecture.
gallery.
You mentioned
It says architect Brian Bullen. That name ring a bell?
Oh, okay, no.
He seems to be the person running the exhibition.
Let me ask this question. Maybe we can ask again. How has the revolution affected art?
I had that question. Mm-hmm.
Are you able to walk the galleries and streets or wherever and see anything relating to the?
Yes, but it's more so the portrait of Morris Bishop.
Okay.
Just recently, when I say recently, maybe about 5 years ago or less than that, we had a first, well, not a first sculpture, but a sculpture of Eric Matthew Gary, and he was a part involving with the whole revolution and stuff like that as well. He played a part in that. So in terms of Morris Bishop, there's a lot of portraits of Morris Bishops at different places where you, especially when you're traveling more the countryside, right? You find a lot of large portraits up and down Grenadian flag. And sometimes you do find portraits of Eric Matthew Gary as well, But in terms of like seeing a storyline of how things would have developed, or maybe, yeah, let me stick a pin there. But it's just more portraits.
More portraits.
Yeah.
The cat.
Okay.
So what the face look like? I'm tired of it.
All right. Yeah, make we end it now and come back. Yeah.
So where can the people find you?
Right here on the Conundrum. Instagram, Facebook. Planford Watson will do it.
71. Dot 71.
And 71 for Instagram.
The only certain one is the Art Conundrum. the only certain one is the Art Conundrum. I thought I would have seen you online after you made the post. After you post the video, I thought you would have started to be more frequent, but get my hopes up too soon.
It's not dash. Don't dash the hopes yet.
All right.
It's good. People not finding him there, they'll find him here.
Well, Khristina.
Yeah, I mean, same for Mr. Watson. You can find me back on the Art Conundrum podcast. Actually, this is one of the places where I'm most. You can see my face the most. You can see my face the most. I haven't when I look back through my the Instagram, I say, I haven't really been posting.
Same for me.
But you can find me here. My Instagram, my work one is Heavy Manners, and the other one is Khristina, I think. Khristina Marie.
All right.
So yeah.
Okay. All right. And our lovely guest, Daniele Joseph. I think a lot of the viewers might recognize it if especially those from our time. Hopefully they're watching.
Well, you can definitely find me on Instagram at Studio Art 473 or no. Yes, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, and that is our episode.